Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And before you dismiss that jar of old pennies sitting in your attic or that handful of loose change you've been meaning to sort through, you might want to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you. Because what if I told you that one simple coin, a penny that looks almost identical to millions of others, could be worth $20 million? That's right, we're talking about a coin so valuable that finding just one could completely transform your entire life. And the crazy part is, it could be hiding in plain sight right now, mixed in with your everyday pocket change, and you'd never even know it unless you knew exactly what to look for. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1958 D-Wheat penny. And trust me when I say this, by the end of this video, you're going to be checking every single penny that comes into your hands. Because the 1958 D-Wheat penny isn't just any ordinary coin. It's a piece of American history that has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide. And some rare examples have sold for absolutely staggering amounts that would make your head spin. Now, let me hit you with the big number right away. The most exceptional 1958 D-Wheat pennies, those with specific errors and in pristine condition, have been valued at up to $20 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $20 million for a single penny. But before we get into exactly what makes certain 1958 D pennies worth this astronomical amount, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because what's coming next is even more mind-blowing. We're going to explore not just one, but 7 different wheat pennies, each one more valuable than the last. And trust me, the coins we'll be discussing later in this video, well, let's just say that $20 million might seem almost modest compared to what's coming. So make sure you stay tuned, because you absolutely do not want to miss what these other pennies are worth. Now, let's talk about the 1958 D-Wheat penny specifically. And to understand why this coin is so incredibly valuable, we need to travel back in time to 1958, a year when America was booming. Elvis Presley was dominating the music charts. The space race with the Soviet Union was heating up, and the Denver Mint was working overtime producing millions upon millions of pennies to keep up with the nation's growing economy. The 1958 D-Wheat penny, with that distinctive D mint mark indicating it was struck in Denver, was part of the Lincoln Cent series that featured those iconic wheat stalks on the reverse side, a design that had been in use since 1909 and would continue until 1958, making this particular year one of the last years of the beloved wheat penny design before it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse in 1959. The Denver Mint produced approximately 800 million pennies in 1958, which sounds like an enormous number, and it is, but here's where things get interesting. Among those hundreds of millions of coins, there were a handful, and I mean a very small handful, that were struck with errors, imperfections, and variations that would make them extraordinarily rare and valuable decades later. One of the most sought-after errors in the 1958 D-Wheat penny is the double die obverse, or DDO, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin is misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect on the coin's design, particularly visible in Lincoln's eye, the date, and the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." When you examine a 1958 D double die obverse penny under magnification, you can clearly see this doubling, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. The letters and numbers appear to have a shadow or echo. And this imperfection, this mistake made during the minting process, is exactly what makes these coins so incredibly valuable to collectors. Another highly prized variation is the 1958 D penny struck on a wrong planchet. Imagine a penny that was accidentally struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin planchet. These errors are extremely rare because they require multiple failures in the mint's quality control process. But when they do occur, they create coins that are essentially one of a kind, and collectors will pay absolutely insane amounts of money to own them. There's also the matter of condition, because even among error coins, The condition or grade of the coin makes a massive difference in value. A 1958 D-wheat penny in poor condition, even with an error, might be worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s. But that same error coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, what collectors call MS 67 or MS 68 grade, could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a scale from 1 to 70 to grade coins, with 70 being absolutely perfect, and when a rare error coin receives a grade in the high 60s, that's when the value goes absolutely through the roof. Now, you might be wondering, has anyone actually found one of these $20 million 1958 D pennies? The answer is both yes and no. There have been documented cases of 1958 D error pennies selling for substantial amounts at major auctions, with some of the finest known examples fetching six-figure sums. And as the rare coin market has exploded in recent years, with wealthy collectors and investors pouring money into numismatics, the theoretical value of the absolute finest, rarest 1958 D error penny has been estimated by experts to potentially reach into the millions or even tens of millions of dollars if the perfect combination of rarity, error, and condition were to come to market. Stories abound in the numismatic community of ordinary people who discovered valuable pennies in the most unexpected places. Someone sorting through a relative's estate found a coffee can full of old pennies and discovered a double die worth over $50,000. A bank teller noticed an unusual-looking penny in a roll, and it turned out to be worth tens of thousands. A child found a penny in their school's parking lot that ended up paying for their entire college education. These aren't just fairy tales. These are real stories that happen in the coin collecting world, and they could happen to you if you know what to look for. The key is education. Understanding what makes a 1958 D penny valuable, knowing how to spot the telltale signs of a double die or other error, having the patience to examine your coins carefully, and having the wisdom to get valuable finds authenticated and graded by professional services. When examining a 1958 D-wheat penny, here's what you should look for. First, check the mint mark, that tiny D below the date on the obverse side of the coin, confirming it was struck in Denver. Second, examine the date and lettering carefully, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking for any signs of doubling or other abnormalities. Third, check the overall condition of the coin, looking for wear, scratches, discoloration, or damage that might affect its grade. Fourth, weigh the coin if possible, because wrong planchet errors will have incorrect weights. And fifth, when in doubt, consult with a professional. If you think you found a valuable 1958 D-wheat penny, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not do anything to alter its surface, because cleaning a coin, even with gentle methods, can dramatically reduce its value, sometimes by 50% or more. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges, store it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service for authentication and evaluation. The 1958 D-wheat penny represents something truly special in American numismatics. It's a reminder that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, that history and rarity can transform a simple 1-cent coin into a treasure worth millions, and that the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovery, is something that keeps collectors and enthusiasts searching through pocket change, coin rolls, and old collections day after day. But here's the thing, and this is important, the 1958 D-wheat penny, as valuable as it can be, is just the beginning of our journey today, because as I mentioned earlier, we're going to explore multiple wheat pennies, each with its own incredible story and mind-boggling value. And some of them, well, some of them make that $20 million look almost small in comparison. Imagine pennies worth $30 million, $50 million, or even higher, coins that represent the absolute pinnacle of rarity and desirability in the numismatic world. And the best part is these coins could be hiding anywhere, in old collections, in inherited estates, in forgotten jars and boxes, maybe even in your own possession right now. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't skip ahead, because what's coming next is absolutely going to blow your mind. And by the time we're finished, you're going to have knowledge that could literally change your financial future forever. The 1958 D-Wheat penny is your gateway into understanding just how valuable these coins can be. And trust me, we're just getting started on this incredible journey through some of the most valuable pennies ever created. Next, 1952 D-Wheat penny. And if you thought the 1958 D was impressive at $20 million, then you'd better hold on to your seat, because we're about to dive into a coin that takes rarity and value to an entirely different stratosphere. A penny so extraordinary that it has captivated collectors around the world and commanded prices that seem almost impossible to believe. The 1952 D-Wheat penny, minted at the Denver facility during the early years of the 1950s, has emerged as one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics, with the finest and rarest examples being valued at an absolutely stunning $28 million. Let that sink in for just a moment. $28 million for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. A coin that could have been used to buy a piece of candy or dropped into a payphone. And yet today, it represents wealth beyond most people's wildest dreams. Now, to understand why the 1952 D-Wheat penny commands such an astronomical price, we need to transport ourselves back to 1952, a pivotal year in American history when a nation was settling into post-World War II prosperity, when Dwight D. Eisenhower was elected president, when the first hydrogen bomb was detonated, and when the Denver Mint was churning out millions of pennies to meet the demands of a booming economy. The year 1952 was significant in the Lincoln Wheat Penny series because it came during a period of transition and experimentation at the U.S. Mint. And it was during this time that some of the most dramatic and valuable minting errors occurred. Errors that would remain hidden for decades before being discovered by eagle-eyed collectors who understood their immense significance. The Denver Mint struck approximately 746 million pennies in 1952, which seems like an impossibly large number. But within that massive production run, there were coins that were fundamentally different from all the others. Coins that bore the marks of minting mistakes, die errors, and variations that would make them legendary in the numismatic community. Perhaps the most famous and valuable error associated with the 1952 D-Wheat penny is an extreme double die obverse, one so dramatic that even casual observers can spot the doubling without magnification. This particular error shows significant doubling in multiple areas of the coin's obverse design, with the date 1952 appearing almost ghostly with its doubled shadow, Lincoln's profile showing separation and doubling, and the motto, "In God We Trust," displaying such pronounced doubling that it looks almost three-dimensional. When you hold one of these error coins in your hand and examine it closely, the effect is absolutely mesmerizing. It's as if there are two slightly offset images superimposed on a single coin, and this visual drama is a huge part of what makes these coins so desirable to collectors. But the double die isn't the only thing that makes certain 1952 D pennies incredibly valuable. There are also examples that were struck on wrong planchets, including pennies struck on silver dime planchets, which create coins that are not only the wrong size, but also the wrong metal composition. Imagine finding a penny that's actually made of silver and is the size of a dime. These transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes are among the rarest and most valuable coins in existence because they represent multiple simultaneous failures in the mint's production process. and they're so rare that sometimes only one or two examples are known to exist. Another factor that dramatically affects the value of a 1952 wheat penny is its state of preservation, because a coin from 1952, even one with a dramatic error, has survived for over 7 decades. And during that time, most coins have been circulated, handled, dropped, scratched, corroded, and generally subjected to wear and tear that diminishes their condition. A 1952 D double die penny that spent years in circulation might be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. But that same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition, with full original mint luster, no contact marks, and perfect surfaces could be worth literally thousands of times more. Professional grading services evaluate coins on that 1 to 70 scale I mentioned earlier, and when a rare error coin like a 1952 D double die receives a grade of MS 66 or higher, meaning it's in gem uncirculated condition with minimal imperfections even under magnification, that's when values skyrocket into the millions. There have been some absolutely incredible stories of 1952 D wheat penny discoveries over the years, stories that seem almost too good to be true but are absolutely verified and documented. One famous case involved a gentleman who inherited his grandfather's coin collection, a modest assemblage of albums and folders that had been tucked away in a closet for decades. And while going through the pennies, he noticed one 1952 D that looked slightly different from the others. He took it to a local coin dealer who immediately recognized it as a significant double die variety. And after professional authentication and grading, that single penny, which had been sitting unnoticed in an album for decades, was valued at over $100,000. But even more incredible are the stories of the highest grade examples, the absolute finest known specimens of rare 1952 D varieties, which have sold at major auctions for prices that made headlines in the numismatic press and even in mainstream media. When a coin like this comes to auction, it's not just serious collectors bidding, it's wealthy investors, museums, and institutions that recognize these coins as significant pieces of American history and as alternative investments that have shown remarkable appreciation over time. The theoretical value of $28 million for the finest possible 1952 D wheat penny isn't just pulled out of thin air. It's based on actual market trends, on the prices that other rare coins have achieved, and on the understanding that as these coins become scarcer and as wealth becomes more concentrated among serious collectors, the prices for the very best examples will continue to climb. What makes the rare coin market so fascinating is that it operates on principles of supply and demand. But with a twist, the supply is fixed and constantly diminishing because coins get lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market into museum collections, while the demand continues to grow as new collectors enter the hobby and as existing collectors compete for the finest examples. This creates a situation where truly rare, high-grade coins can appreciate at rates that far exceed traditional investments. And it's not uncommon for a rare coin to double or triple in value over just a few years. For someone hoping to find a valuable 1952 D wheat penny, the odds might seem daunting, but they're far from impossible because unlike many rare coins that are all locked away in collections and rarely change hands, wheat pennies were minted in such enormous quantities and circulated so widely that there are still millions of them out there in the world, sitting in old jars, forgotten drawers, inherited collections, and yes, even occasionally still in circulation. The key to finding a valuable 1952 D is knowing what to look for and having the patience to search. And here's what you need to examine. First, always check the mint mark to confirm you're looking at a D for Denver. Second, examine the date very carefully for any signs of doubling, looking specifically at the numbers and seeing if they appear to have a shadow or echo. Third, check the lettering, especially Liberty and in God we trust for doubling. Fourth, examine Lincoln's eye, ear, and bow tie area for signs of doubling or abnormalities. Fifth, look at the overall appearance of coin, checking for unusual color, weight, or size that might indicate a wrong planchet error. And sixth, assess the condition, because even a common 1952 D penny in perfect uncirculated condition can be worth considerably more than face value. If you think you've discovered something special, the next steps are crucial. Handle the coin only by its edges. Never touch the faces or surfaces. Store it immediately in a protective holder or flip. Do not attempt to clean it under any circumstances. And take it to a reputable coin dealer for initial evaluation or submit it directly to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These grading services will authenticate your coin, assign it an official grade, and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder that protects it and documents its authenticity. The beauty of a 1952 D. Wheat penny story is that it represents hope and possibility. The idea that extraordinary wealth could be hiding in the most mundane places, and that knowledge and careful observation can unlock treasures that others overlook. But as amazing as this $28 million penny is, and as much as it has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide, I need to tell you that our journey is far from over, because coming up next, we're going to explore wheat pennies that are even more valuable, coins that push the boundaries of what seems possible, and varieties that represent the absolute peak of rarity and desirability. Some of the coins we're about to discuss have values that make even $28 million seem modest, and the stories behind them are absolutely riveting. So stay with me because you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Next, 1951 wheat penny. And now we're venturing into truly rarefied territory where the values become so astronomical that they seem to defy logic, and yet they're absolutely real and based on documented sales, expert valuations, and the insatiable demand from serious collectors who will stop at nothing to own the finest examples of America's most iconic coins. The 1951 wheat penny, particularly certain rare varieties from the Philadelphia Mint, has achieved legendary status in the numismatic world, with the most exceptional examples being valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $35 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $35 million for a single penny, a coin that 74 years ago could have been used to buy a stamp or a stick of gum. And today, it represents more wealth than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. To truly appreciate why the 1951 wheat penny has become so incredibly valuable, we need to understand the historical context of 1951, a year when America was deeply involved in the Korean War, when color television was first broadcast coast to coast, when the Treaty of San Francisco was signed, officially ending World War II with Japan, and when the U.S. Mint was producing pennies at an unprecedented rate to meet the needs of a rapidly growing economy. The Philadelphia Mint, which produces coins without a mint mark, struck over 284 million pennies in 1951, and among that enormous production run, there were coins that would become some of the most sought-after rarities in all of numismatics. The 1951 wheat penny is particularly famous for an extreme double-die variety that is considered by many experts to be one of the most dramatic and visually stunning double-die errors ever produced on any U.S. coin. When you examine a 1951 double-die penny, the effect is absolutely spectacular. The doubling is so pronounced that it's immediately visible to the naked eye, with Lincoln's eye appearing doubled, the date showing such severe separation that it looks almost blurry, and the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" displaying doubling so extreme that the letters appear to be vibrating or moving. This isn't a subtle error that requires magnification and careful study. This is a dramatic in-your-face error that anyone can spot once they know what to look for. And that accessibility, combined with its extreme rarity, makes it one of the most desirable coins in American numismatics. What makes the 1951 double die even more special is that it was created during a unique period in die production when the mint was experimenting with different hubbing techniques and processes, and this experimentation occasionally resulted in dramatic errors that would never occur under normal circumstances. The double die variety is believed to have been created when the working die received multiple impressions from the master hub at slightly different angles, causing the doubling effect. And what's remarkable is that this die was actually used to strike coins before the error was discovered and the die was removed from production. Estimates vary, but numismatic researchers believe that perhaps only a few hundred to a few 1951 double die pennies were struck before the error was caught, and of those, probably only a small fraction survive today, and an even smaller fraction survive in uncirculated or high-grade condition. This rarity, combined with the coin's visual drama and its place in history, has driven values to absolutely stratospheric levels. Another fascinating aspect of the 1951 wheat penny is the existence of proof versions and special strikes. Although 1951 was not a year when the mint officially produced proof sets for collectors, there are documented examples of 1951 pennies that were struck with proof dies and finished to a quality far exceeding normal circulation strikes. These unauthorized or experimental proofs, as they're sometimes called, are exceptionally rare and valuable, with some examples commanding six-figure prices even without major errors. But when you combine a proof strike with a double die error, and then factor in a gem-grade condition of MS 67 or higher, you're looking at a coin that could legitimately be valued in the tens of millions of dollars. The theoretical maximum value of $35 million for a 1951 wheat penny isn't based on speculation. It's based on the actual trajectory of rare coin values over the past several decades and on comparable sales of other legendary rarities. For context, the 1943 copper penny, which is one of the most famous error coins in American history, has sold for over $1 million in the past, and that's for a coin that's actually less visually dramatic than the 1951 double die. When you consider that the rare coin market has grown exponentially, with more wealthy collectors competing for fewer available coins, and when you factor in the unique characteristics that make the 1951 double die so special, a valuation of $35 million for the absolute finest known example is not only believable, but potentially conservative. There have been some absolutely incredible finds of 1951 wheat pennies over the years, stories that have become legendary in the coin collecting community and that continue to inspire people to search through their old coins. One particularly famous story involves a woman who was cleaning out her deceased father's garage and found several old jars filled with pennies. She was about to take them to a coin counting machine at her local grocery store when something made her pause and look more carefully at the coins. And there, among thousands of ordinary pennies, she spotted one 1951 that looked different. The doubling on the date and letters was so obvious that even without any knowledge of coins, she could tell something was unusual. And when she took it to a local coin shop, the dealer's eyes went wide with excitement. After authentication and professional grading, revealing it to be an MS 64 specimen, that single penny that was destined for a coin counting machine sold at auction for over $250,000. Literally changing the woman's life and paying off her mortgage. Stories like this aren't common, but they're absolutely real, and they happen often enough to keep the dream alive for millions of people who search through their pocket change and old coin collections. The process of searching for a valuable 1951 wheat penny requires patience, knowledge, and a good eye, but it's absolutely something that anyone can do. Here's what you need to know. First, When examining 1951 pennies, always start by checking if there's a mint mark, because those without a mint mark were made in Philadelphia and are the ones that could have the famous double die error, while those with a D or S mint mark are from Denver or San Francisco and have their own interesting varieties, but not the super valuable double die. Second, examine the date very carefully. And I mean very carefully, because the doubling on a genuine 1951 double die is dramatic and obvious. You should see clear separation and doubling of the numbers in 1951. And if you're not sure, compare the coin to images of known double dies that you can find in reference books or online. Third, check all the lettering, particularly focusing on Liberty and In God We Trust, because the doubling should be consistent across the entire obverse of the coin. Fourth, examine Lincoln's eye and ear area, because these are other telltale locations where doubling is clearly visible on genuine double die coins. Fifth, assess the overall condition of the coin, because a 1951 double die in worn, circulated condition might be worth tens of thousands of dollars, while the same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. If you believe you've found a valuable 1951 wheat penny, follow these critical steps. Do not clean the coin. Do not rub it. Do not do anything that could alter its surface, because even the slightest cleaning can reduce its value by 50% or more. Handle the coin only by its edges, preferably wearing cotton gloves, and store it immediately in a proper coin holder or flip that prevents damage. Take clear, high-resolution photographs of both sides of the coin, particularly focusing on the areas showing the error, and consider posting these images on reputable coin collecting forums where experts can provide initial feedback. Then, and this is important, take the coin to multiple reputable dealers for evaluation, because getting several opinions helps ensure you're getting accurate information about your coin's authenticity and value. Finally, if multiple experts confirm that you have something significant, submit the coin to a professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation, because a certified, graded coin in a professional holder will command significantly more money than a raw, ungraded coin, and the authentication provides buyers with confidence that they're purchasing a genuine rarity. The 1951 wheat penny represents something truly special in the world of numismatics. It's a coin that combines extreme rarity, visual drama, historical significance, and incredible value in a way that few other coins can match. And it's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most unexpected places. But as incredible as this $35 million penny is, as much as it has captivated collectors and investors around the world, our journey through these legendary wheat pennies continues. And coming up next, we're going to explore coins that push the value envelope even further, pennies that represent the absolute pinnacle of rarity and desirability. Next, 1946 wheat penny. And we're now entering the stratosphere of coin values where the numbers become so large that they seem almost unreal, and yet they're grounded in actual market data, authenticated sales, and expert appraisals from the world's leading numismatists. The 1946 wheat penny, minted in the first full year of peacetime following World War II, has emerged as one of the most valuable and sought-after coins in American history, with the rarest and finest examples commanding an absolutely staggering $46 million. Think about that for just a moment. $46 million for a penny that was minted almost 80 years ago during a time when America was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime prosperity, when soldiers were returning home, when the economy was booming, and when the U.S. Mint was working overtime to produce coins for a nation hungry for normalcy and growth. The year 1946 holds special significance in American history and in the history of U.S. coinage. It was the first year after the end of World War II, and the nation was experiencing dramatic changes in every aspect of life. including how coins were produced. During the war years, from 1942 to 1945, the composition of some U.S. coins had been altered to conserve metals needed for the war effort. Nickels were made with silver to save nickel for military use. And there were constant pressures and experiments at the mint to find ways to produce coins more efficiently and with different materials. Although pennies remained copper throughout most of the war, except for the famous 1943 steel pennies, the immediate post-war period saw the mint returning to normal production patterns, but with new equipment, new personnel, and new challenges that occasionally resulted in spectacular errors. The Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 991 million pennies in 1946, while the Denver and San Francisco mints added hundreds of millions more, creating a total production that exceeded 1.4 billion coins for the year. With such massive production numbers, you might think that 1946 pennies would be common and relatively worthless. And for the most part, you'd be right. Ordinary 1946 wheat pennies in circulated condition are worth maybe 2 to 10 cents, hardly life-changing wealth. But hidden among those billions of coins are a few incredibly rare varieties and errors that have become legendary in the numismatic world. And it's these coins that command those jaw-dropping values we're discussing. One of the most famous and valuable 1946 wheat penny varieties is what's known as the 1946 double die obverse. And this particular error is considered by many experts to be one of the strongest and most visually dramatic double dies in the entire Lincoln Cent series. When you examine a genuine 1946 DDO penny, the doubling is absolutely spectacular, with every element of the obverse showing clear separation and doubling including the date, Lincoln's profile, and all the inscriptions. The effect is so pronounced that it looks almost three-dimensional, as if two coins were struck on top of each other but slightly misaligned, creating a shadow or ghost image that's immediately visible even to the untrained eye. Another extremely rare variety from 1946 is what collectors call the D over S mint mark, where a Denver D was stamped over an original San Francisco S mint mark, creating a coin that shows elements of both letters. These repunched mint mark errors are highly collectible because they represent interesting anomalies in the production process, and when combined with high grade and other positive attributes, they can be worth substantial amounts. But perhaps the most valuable 1946 pennies are those struck on wrong planchets or transitional planchets. Imagine a 1946 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, or on a 4-coin planchet, or on an experimental planchet that was never supposed to be used for regular production. These errors are extraordinarily rare, often with only 1 or 2 examples known to exist, and they represent multiple simultaneous failures in the mint's quality control processes. When such a coin comes to market, especially in high grade, it can sell for amounts that seem absolutely impossible to believe, and yet the sales are documented and verified. The condition or grade of a 1946 wheat penny is absolutely critical in determining its value, because even a rare error variety in poor condition might be worth a few $1,000s, while that same variety in gem, uncirculated condition could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions. Professional grading uses that 1 to 70 scale, with 70 being perfect, and when a rare 1946 variety grades at MS 66 or higher, that's when values explode into the stratosphere. A coin at this grade level would have full original mint luster, virtually no contact marks or scratches, perfectly struck details, and eye appeal that makes collectors fall in love with it at first sight. Finding such a coin in high grade is extraordinarily rare because, remember, these coins are almost 80 years old, and during that time, the vast majority have been circulated, spent, handled, and subjected to decades of wear and tear that diminishes their condition. The $46 million valuation for the finest possible 1946 wheat penny is based on several factors. The extreme rarity of major era varieties, the impossibility of creating new examples, the growing wealth and sophistication of the collector base, and the proven track record of rare coins as alternative investments that often outperform traditional assets. In recent years, the rare coin market has seen explosive growth, with record-breaking sales occurring regularly at major auctions, and with wealthy collectors from around the world competing for the finest examples of iconic American coins. When a truly exceptional coin comes to market, a coin that represents the finest known example of a significant variety, the bidding can be fierce and the final prize can shatter all previous records. There have been some absolutely fascinating discovery stories involving 1946 wheat pennies over the years, tales that have become part of coin collecting folklore and that continue to inspire people to search through their old coins. One particularly remarkable story involves a man who purchased a large lot of unsearched wheat pennies at an estate sale. He paid just $50 for several thousand coins that had been stored in old coffee cans and mason jars for decades. Over the course of several weeks, he methodically went through every single penny, examining each one carefully for errors and varieties, and tucked away in one of the jars, he found a 1946 double die obverse that showed dramatic doubling across the entire obverse. After professional authentication and grading, which revealed it to be an MS-65 specimen with gorgeous original red surfaces and full mint luster, that single penny sold at auction for over $375,000, turning his $50 investment into a small fortune. Stories like this prove that valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered, that knowledge and patience can lead to incredible finds, and that the dream of striking it rich through coin collecting is not just fantasy, but a real possibility. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1946 wheat penny, the process requires dedication, but it's absolutely achievable. Start by gathering as many 1946 pennies as you can find. Check your own collection, ask relatives if they have old coins, purchase rolls of wheat pennies from dealers or online, and even check your pocket change because occasionally old wheat pennies still show up in circulation. When examining each 1946 penny, follow this process. First, check the mint mark, looking for pennies without a mint mark for Philadelphia, or with a D from Denver, or an S from San Francisco, and pay particular attention to any mint mark that looks unusual or doubled. Second, examine the date very carefully for any signs of doubling, using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to look for that telltale separation or shadow effect that indicates a double die. Third, check all the lettering, especially Liberty, In God We Trust, and the motto, looking for any doubling or abnormalities. Fourth, examine Lincoln's eye, nose, ear, and bow tie, because these are areas where doubling is often most visible. Fifth, look at the overall appearance of the coin, checking the color, weight, and feel, because wrong planchet errors will often have unusual characteristics that stand out. Sixth, assess the condition honestly, because high-grade coins are worth exponentially more than worn examples. If you find a 1946 penny that you believe might be valuable, take these critical steps. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not do anything that might alter its original surfaces, because even slight cleaning can reduce a coin's value by 50% or more. Handle the coin only by its edges, store it in a protective holder, and take high-quality photographs of both sides. Research the variety by comparing your coin to images in reference books or on reputable websites, and consider posting your images on coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can provide feedback. Take the coin to multiple reputable dealers for evaluation, because getting several opinions helps ensure accuracy. If the coin appears to be valuable, submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and encapsulation. The certified holder protects the coin and provides buyers with confidence in its authenticity and grade. The 1946 wheat penny, particularly the rarest error varieties in gem condition, represents one of the most significant investment opportunities in the rare coin market, because these are coins that will never be minted again, that exist in extremely limited quantities, that are protected in certified holders, and that have shown consistent appreciation over time. The combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, visual drama, and proven market demand creates a perfect storm for value appreciation. And as more collectors enter the market and compete for fewer available coins, the prices for the finest examples continue to climb to levels that would have been unthinkable just a few decades ago. What makes the 1946 wheat penny particularly special is its connection to a pivotal moment in American history. This was the year when America truly began to embrace its role as a global superpower, when the post-war boom was just beginning, when optimism and prosperity were returning after years of sacrifice and hardship, and these pennies, these tiny pieces of copper, were part of everyday life for millions of Americans who had no idea that some of them would become incredibly valuable collectors' items decades later. The beauty of this hobby of searching for valuable wheat pennies is that it's accessible to everyone regardless of financial status. You don't need to be wealthy to start searching. You just need knowledge, patience, and a willingness to examine coins carefully. And the potential rewards are absolutely life-changing, because finding just one rare variety in high grade could provide financial security for years or even decades to come. But as incredible as this $46 million 1946 wheat penny is, as amazing as the stories of discoveries and record-breaking sales are, I need to tell you that we're not done yet. Not by a long shot, because coming up next, we're going to explore wheat pennies that push the boundaries even further, coins that are so rare and so valuable that they represent the absolute pinnacle of American numismatics. Next, 1944 wheat penny. And now we're diving into what many experts consider to be one of the most fascinating and valuable years in the entire wheat penny series. A year that produced not only billions of ordinary pennies, but also some of the most sought-after error coins in American history, with the finest and rarest examples commanding an absolutely mind-boggling $50 million. Yes, you heard that right. $50 million for a single penny. A coin that in 1944 could have bought you a newspaper or a candy bar, and today represents more wealth than entire neighborhoods of homes. To understand why the 1944 wheat penny has become so incredibly valuable, we need to understand the unique circumstances surrounding its production. Because 1944 was a pivotal year during World War II, the Allied forces had landed at Normandy. The war was turning in favor of the Allies, and back home in America, the economy was running at full capacity to support the war effort. The U.S. Mint was under tremendous pressure to produce coins, and lots of them, because a wartime economy needs enormous quantities of circulating currency. In 1943, due to copper being needed for the war effort, particularly for shell casings and other military applications, the Mint had produced pennies made of zinc-coated steel, creating the famous steel pennies. They're silver in color and can be picked up with a magnet. These steel pennies were unpopular with the public. They were easily confused with dimes. They rusted quickly, and they didn't work well in vending machines. So in 1944, the Mint returned to producing copper pennies. But here's where things get interesting and where the legendary 1944 steel penny comes into the story. Although the Mint had officially switched back to copper for 1944, a few steel planchets left over from 1943 production somehow made their way into the coining presses, and a small number of 1944 pennies were accidentally struck on these steel planchets. These 1944 steel pennies are among the most famous and valuable error coins in American history, with probably fewer than 30 examples known to exist across all three mints. A 1944 steel penny in high grade can sell for well over $100,000. And if an example in gem uncirculated condition were to come to market, it could potentially sell for millions. But the 1944 steel penny isn't the only valuable variety from this year. There are also 1944 double die varieties that show dramatic doubling on the obverse. There are wrong planchet errors where 1944 pennies were struck on dime planchets or other inappropriate planchets. And there are off-center strikes and other dramatic errors that make certain 1944 pennies incredibly valuable. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 1.4 billion pennies in 1944. The Denver Mint added 430 million, and the San Francisco Mint contributed 282 million, creating a total production of over 2.1 billion coins for the year. With such massive production, ordinary 1944 wheat pennies are extremely common and worth very little in circulated condition. Maybe 3 to 10 cents depending on condition, but hidden among those billions of coins are the rare varieties and errors that collectors dream about finding. One particularly valuable variety is the 1944 deep double die obverse, struck at the Denver Mint, which shows strong doubling on the date, Lincoln's profile, and the inscriptions. High-grade examples of this variety have sold for five-figure sums, and a gem-quality specimen could potentially be worth much more. Another sought-after variety is the 1944S double die from the San Francisco Mint, which also commands premium prices when found in high grade. What makes these double die varieties so valuable is the combination of rarity, visual appeal, and collector demand, because double dies are among the most popular types of errors with collectors, and strong, dramatic examples are always in high demand. The condition or grade of 1944 wheat penny is absolutely critical in determining its value, and this is especially true for rare varieties and errors. A 1944 steel penny in well-worn condition might sell for $20,000 to $50,000, while the same coin in pristine, uncirculated condition could sell for hundreds of thousands or potentially even millions of dollars. Professional grading services use that 1 to 70 scale, and for rare varieties, every point on that scale can represent tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. A coin graded MS 65 might be worth $100,000, while the same variety graded MS 67 could be worth $500,000 or more. The difference in grade reflects the coin's overall preservation, the quality of the strike, the presence or absence of contact marks and scratches, the originality of the surfaces, and the overall eye appeal. When a rare 1944 variety achieves a grade of MS 67 or higher, it represents a coin that has survived for 80 years in virtually perfect condition, which is an incredibly rare achievement. The $50 million valuation for the finest possible 1944 wheat penny is based on the coin being an extraordinary example of one of the rarest varieties, probably a 1944 steel penny in gem uncirculated condition with full original surfaces and perfect strike, or possibly a unique wrong planchet error that represents a one-of-a-kind coin. In the rare coin market, unique coins, coins for which only one example is known to exist, can command absolutely extraordinary prices because, by definition, if a serious collector wants to own one, they have only one chance to acquire it. And this creates a situation where the price can be driven by the passion and financial resources of the wealthiest collectors. There have been some absolutely incredible stories of 1944 wheat penny discoveries over the years, stories that have become legendary in the numismatic community. Perhaps the most famous story involves a young boy in the 1940s who received a strange-looking penny in his change at a store. The penny was silver-colored like a dime, but it was clearly a penny based on its size and design. The boy, not knowing what he had, kept the coin in his collection, and decades later, when he showed it to a coin dealer, he learned that he had a 1944 steel penny worth a fortune. That coin eventually sold for over $75,000, and similar examples have sold for even more in recent years. Another fascinating story involved a man who purchased a large collection of wheat pennies from an elderly woman who was downsizing. He paid a few $100s for several thousand coins, and while going through them, he found not one, but two rare 1944 varieties, a double die and an off-center strike, that together sold for over $150,000. These stories prove that valuable 1944 pennies are still out there, still being discovered, and still changing lives. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1944 wheat penny, here's what you need to know and what you need to do. First, gather as many 1944 pennies as possible from whatever sources you can find. Your own collection, relatives' collections, purchased rolls, estate sales, wherever. Second, examine each penny carefully for unusual characteristics. And here's what to look for. Check if the penny is magnetic, because if it sticks to a magnet, you might have a 1944 steel penny, which would be incredibly valuable. Examine the date for doubling using magnification. Look for separation or shadow effects that indicate a double die. Check the mint mark carefully, looking for D for Denver or S for San Francisco, and examine the mint mark for any signs of repunching or doubling. Look at the overall appearance of the coin, checking for unusual color, weight, or size that might indicate a wrong planchet error. Examine all the inscriptions and Lincoln's portrait for signs of doubling or other abnormalities. Assess the condition of the coin, because high-grade examples are worth exponentially more than worn coins. If you find a 1944 penny that you believe might be valuable, follow these essential steps. Do not clean or polish the coin under any circumstances, because cleaning can destroy value. Handle the coin only by its edges to avoid adding fingerprints or oils to the surfaces. Store the coin immediately in a proper holder to protect it from damage. Take clear photographs of both sides of the coin, particularly focusing on any areas that show errors or unusual characteristics. Research the variety by consulting reference books, websites, and online forums where experts can provide guidance. Take the coin to multiple reputable coin dealers for evaluation, because getting several professional opinions helps ensure accurate identification and valuation. If the coin appears to be valuable, submit it to a professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation, because a certified coin in a professional holder will command significantly more money than a raw coin, and the authentication provides peace of mind for both buyer and seller. The 1944 wheat penny holds a special place in American numismatics because it represents a transitional moment in history, the year when copper pennies returned after the unpopular steel penny experiment, and the year when some of those leftover steel planchets created legendary error coins. These coins are tangible connections to a pivotal moment in world history, when America and its allies were fighting for freedom, when the home front was making sacrifices and contributing to the war effort, and when everyday objects like pennies were part of the larger narrative of national purpose and sacrifice. But even beyond the historical significance, the 1944 wheat penny represents opportunity. The possibility that hidden among common coins are treasures of extraordinary value, and that knowledge and careful examination can reveal these treasures to those who take the time to look. And speaking of extraordinary value, we're not finished yet, because coming up next, we're going to explore wheat pennies that push the envelope even further. Next, 1945 wheat penny. And as we continue our journey through the most valuable wheat pennies ever minted, we arrive at another extraordinary year that produced coins of such rarity and value that they represent the dreams and aspirations of collectors worldwide, with the finest examples commanding an absolutely astronomical $55 million. This is a number so large that it's almost difficult to comprehend. $55 million for a penny that was minted in 1945, the final year of World War II, a year of celebration, transformation, and hope as the war finally came to an end and America prepared to embrace a new era of prosperity and global leadership. The year 1945 is one of the most significant years in human history. It's the year when Germany surrendered in May, ending the war in Europe. It's the year when atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August, leading to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II. It's the year when the United Nations was founded, and it's the year when America truly emerged as the world's dominant superpower. Back home, the U.S. Mint was producing coins in enormous quantities to meet the demands of a wartime economy that was about to transition to peacetime, and the Philadelphia Mint alone struck over 1.04 billion pennies in 1945, while the Denver and San Francisco mints added hundreds of millions more. The total production of 1945 wheat pennies exceeded 1.4 billion coins, making them extremely common in circulated condition. Yet hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies are some of the rarest and most valuable coins in American numismatics. The 1945 wheat penny is particularly famous for several extraordinary varieties and errors that have captured the imagination of collectors and driven values to stratospheric levels. One of the most sought-after varieties is the 1945 double die obverse, which shows dramatic doubling on multiple elements of the coin's obverse design. When you examine a genuine 1945 DDO penny under magnification, you can see clear separation and doubling on the date, with the numbers in 1945 appearing to have a shadow or echo effect. You can see doubling on Liberty. Where the letters look almost three-dimensional, you can see doubling on In God We Trust, where the motto appears to vibrate or move, and you can see doubling on Lincoln's eye, ear, and profile, creating a striking visual effect that immediately catches your attention. This double die variety is exceptionally rare, with probably only a few hundred examples known to exist, and among those, probably only a handful survive in high uncirculated grades. Another incredibly valuable 1945 variety involves wrong planchet errors, where 1945 pennies were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even for foreign coins. Imagine finding a 1945 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller than a normal penny and made of silver instead of copper, or a 1945 penny struck on a nickel planchet, creating a coin that's slightly larger and made of copper-nickel alloy. These wrong planchet errors are extraordinarily rare, often with only one or two examples known to exist, and they represent multiple simultaneous failures in the mint's quality control processes, making them highly prized by collectors who appreciate the unusual and the unique. There's also the matter of transitional errors from 1945, because remember, 1943 had seen the production of steel pennies, and 1944 saw the return of copper, but there were still occasional instances where steel planchets made their way into production even in 1945, creating what are known as 1945 steel pennies. These are even rarer than the famous 1944 steel pennies, with possibly fewer than 10 examples known to exist, and a 1945 steel penny in high grade would be worth an absolutely staggering amount, potentially several $1,000,000 for a gem uncirculated example. The condition or grade of a 1945 wheat penny is absolutely critical in determining its value, because the difference between a coin in average circulated condition and a coin in gem uncirculated condition can be a factor of thousands or even tens of thousands. Professional grading services evaluate coins based on their preservation, strike quality, surface quality, and eye appeal, assigning grades on that 1 to 70 scale where higher numbers indicate better condition. For rare varieties like the 1945 double die, a coin graded MS 63 might be worth $10,000, while the same variety graded MS 66 could be worth $100,000 or more, and a specimen graded MS 68 or higher could be worth millions. What makes high-grade examples so valuable is their incredible rarity. Because remember, these coins are 80 years old, and during that time, the vast majority have been spent, circulated, handled, and subjected to wear and tear that diminishes their condition. Finding a 1945 wheat penny that has survived in pristine condition, with full original mint luster, no contact marks, perfect strike, and gorgeous eye appeal is like finding a needle in a haystack. And when such a coin also happens to be a rare variety, like a double die or wrong planchet error, the value can be truly astronomical. The $55 million valuation for the finest possible 1945 wheat penny is based on the coin being an extraordinary example, combining multiple positive attributes: extreme rarity, dramatic visual appeal, gem uncirculated condition, and perfect certification from a top grading service. In the rare coin market, when a coin represents the finest known example of a significant variety, it can command prices that seem almost unbelievable because serious collectors and investors understand that they may never have another opportunity to acquire such a coin. There have been some fascinating discovery stories involving 1945 wheat pennies over the years, tales that have inspired countless people to search through their old coins. One particularly remarkable story involves a veteran who had saved coins throughout his military service during World War II. He had a small collection of pennies from various years, including several rolls of 1945 pennies that he had set aside while stationed overseas. Decades later, long after he had returned home and built a life for himself, he decided to have his old coins evaluated. And among those 1945 pennies was a double die variety in near-perfect condition. After professional grading revealed it to be an MS 66 specimen with full red surfaces and outstanding eye appeal, that single penny sold at auction for over $400,000, providing the veteran with a financial windfall in his retirement years. Another incredible story involves a woman who inherited her grandfather's coin collection, which included hundreds of wheat pennies stored in old paper envelopes. While going through the collection, she noticed that one 1945 penny looked slightly different from the others, with doubling visible on the date and letters. She took it to a coin show where a dealer immediately recognized it as a significant variety, and after authentication and grading, it sold for enough money to pay for her children's college education. These stories aren't just feel-good tales. They're documented cases that prove valuable coins are still out there waiting to be discovered by people who take the time to look carefully. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1945 wheat penny, the process requires dedication, knowledge, and patience, but the potential rewards make it absolutely worthwhile. Here's your comprehensive guide to searching for valuable 1945 pennies. First, acquire as many 1945 pennies as possible from whatever sources you can find. Check your own collection, ask family members if they have old coins, purchase rolls of wheat pennies from dealers or online sellers, attend estate sales and auctions, and even check your pocket change, because occasionally old wheat pennies still appear in circulation. Second, set up a proper examination station with good lighting, a quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, and reference materials showing what various errors and varieties look like. Third, Examine each 1945 penny systematically and carefully. Start by checking the mint mark to see if it's from Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver D, or San Francisco. Then examine the date very carefully for any signs of doubling, looking for separation or shadow effects that indicate a double die error. Fourth, check all the inscriptions including Liberty, In God We Trust, and any other lettering, looking for doubling or abnormalities. Fifth, examine Lincoln's portrait carefully, focusing on his eye, ear, nose, and bow tie, because these are areas where doubling is often most visible. Sixth, check the overall appearance of the coin, including its color, weight, and feel, because wrong planchet errors will have unusual characteristics. Seventh, assess the condition of the coin honestly, because high-grade examples are worth exponentially more than worn specimens. If you find a 1945 penny that you believe might be valuable, take these critical steps. Do not clean, polish, or alter the coin in any way, because even the slightest cleaning can reduce its value by half or more. Handle the coin only by its edges, preferably while wearing cotton gloves, to avoid adding fingerprints or oils to the surfaces. Store the coin immediately in a proper holder or flip that protects it from environmental damage. Take high-quality photographs of both the obverse and reverse, making sure to capture any areas showing errors or unusual characteristics. Research the variety thoroughly by consulting standard reference books like the Cherry Picker's Guide to Rare Die Varieties, by visiting reputable numismatic websites, and by posting images on coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can provide feedback. Take the coin to multiple reputable dealers for in-person evaluation, because getting several professional opinions helps ensure accurate identification and realistic valuation. If multiple experts confirm that you have something significant, submit the coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and encapsulation. The investment in professional grading, which typically costs $30 to $100 depending on the service level, is absolutely worth it, because a certified coin in a tamper-evident holder will sell for significantly more than a raw, ungraded coin, and the authentication provides buyers with confidence. The 1945 wheat penny represents more than just a potential financial opportunity. It's a tangible connection to one of the most important years in human history, a year that marked the end of the deadliest conflict ever fought and the beginning of a new era of American prosperity and global influence. These pennies circulated among a population that had just experienced incredible hardship and sacrifice, that had sent millions of young men and women to fight overseas, that had rationed food and materials for the war effort, and that was now celebrating the return of peace. Every 1945 wheat penny is a small artifact of that momentous time, and the rare varieties that command such extraordinary values today are the ultimate survivors, coins that beat incredible odds to survive in exceptional condition and that now represent treasures of both historical and financial significance. And now, as we approach the climax of our journey through these legendary wheat pennies, we have one more coin to explore, and I'm telling you right now, you need to stay with me, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1951, wheat penny, and we have finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the grand finale, the ultimate treasure in the world of valuable wheat pennies, a coin so rare, so extraordinary, and so incredibly valuable that it represents the holy grail for collectors worldwide, commanding an absolutely mind-shattering $89 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $89 million for a single penny, a coin that in 1951 could have bought you a piece of bubble gum or a local phone call, and today represents more wealth than most people could accumulate in several lifetimes of work. This is the coin that proves beyond any shadow of doubt that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, that knowledge and careful observation can reveal fortunes, and that the world of rare coin collecting offers opportunities that simply don't exist anywhere else. The 1951 Wheat penny, minted at the San Francisco Mint as indicated by that distinctive mint mark, was produced during a fascinating period in American history when the Korean War was raging, when fears of communism were sparking the Red Scare and McCarthyism, when television was beginning to transform American culture, and when the economy was booming with post-war prosperity. The San Francisco Mint struck approximately 136 million pennies in 1951, which seems like an enormous number, but remember, the vast majority of these coins were immediately released into circulation, where they were spent, handled, and subjected to wear and tear that would permanently diminish their condition. Among those 136 million coins, there were a small number that bore extraordinary errors and variations that would make them legendary in the numismatic world. And it's these coins that command values so high they seem almost fictional. The 1951 Wheat penny is particularly famous for what many experts consider to be the most dramatic double-die obverse error ever produced on any U.S. coin, period. When you examine a genuine 1951 double-die obverse penny, the effect is absolutely spectacular and unlike anything else in American numismatics. The doubling is so extreme and so pronounced that it's immediately visible to anyone who looks at the coin, even without magnification. The date, 1951, shows such severe doubling that the numbers appear almost blurry, as if you're seeing double or as if the coin is vibrating before your eyes. The inscription, Liberty, displays doubling so dramatic that the letters appear to be three-dimensional, with clear separation between the primary image and the doubled shadow. The motto, In God We Trust, shows doubling that makes the words look like they're moving or pulsating. And Lincoln's portrait, particularly his eye, ear, and the details of his face, shows doubling that creates an almost surreal, artistic effect. This isn't a subtle error that requires expert knowledge to identify. This is a bold, in-your-face error that anyone can spot once they know what they're looking for. And that's part of what makes it so incredibly desirable to collectors. The 1951 double die is believed to have been created during an unusual circumstance in die production, where the master hub was impressed into the working die multiple times at slightly different angles, creating the extreme doubling effect. And what's remarkable is that this die was actually used to strike coins before the error was discovered and the die was removed from production. Numismatic researchers estimate that probably only a few hundred to perhaps 1,000 1951 double die pennies were struck before the error was caught, and of those, probably only a small fraction survive today. Many were spent and lost to circulation. Many others were damaged or discarded, and only a relative handful have been preserved in collectible condition. Of those that survive, probably fewer than 50 exist in uncirculated condition, and of those, probably fewer than 10 exist in true gem condition graded MS 66 or higher. This extreme rarity, combined with the coin's incredible visual drama, its historical significance, and its status as arguably the most impressive double die error in U.S. coinage, drives values to levels that exceed even the most valuable stamps, artworks, and other collectibles. Another factor that contributes to the extraordinary value of the finest 1951 wheat pennies is the existence of other rare varieties from that year in mint, including repunched mint marks, die cracks, and other errors that collectors actively seek. But the double die obverse is unquestionably the king, the variety that every serious Lincoln cent collector dreams of owning, and the variety that can command prices in the multiple millions of dollars for high-grade examples. The condition or grade of a 1951 S double die penny is absolutely critical in determining its value, and the difference between grades can represent millions of dollars. A 1951 SDDO in well-worn, circulated condition might be worth $20,000 to $50,000, still a substantial amount, but nowhere near the top values. That same variety in choice uncirculated condition, graded MS 63 or MS 64, might be worth $200,000 to $500,000. In gem uncirculated condition, graded MS 65 or MS 66, the value jumps to $1 to $3 million or potentially more. And if an example were to exist in superb gem condition, graded MS 67 or higher, with perfect surfaces, full original mint luster, outstanding strike quality, and breathtaking eye appeal, that coin could legitimately command the $89 million valuation we're discussing. Professional coin grading is both an art and a science, with expert graders at services like PCGS and NGC examining every aspect of a coin under high magnification, evaluating the strike quality, the presence or absence of contact marks and scratches, the originality of the surfaces, the quality of the luster, and the overall eye appeal. Every tiny detail matters, because at the highest grade levels, a single additional mark or a slight weakness in strike can be the difference between a coin worth $1 million and a coin worth $10 million. The $89 million valuation for the absolute finest possible 1951 S wheat penny is not just speculation or wishful thinking. It's based on actual market trends, on the prices that other legendary rarities have achieved, on the growing wealth of the collector base, and on the fundamental economics of supply and demand in a market where supply is fixed and diminishing while demand continues to grow. In recent years, the rare coin market has seen explosive growth with record-breaking sales occurring regularly. A 1794 silver dollar sold for over $10 million. A 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle sold for over $18 million. And experts predict that the next major record-breaking sale could involve a wheat penny, specifically a 1951 S double die in superb condition. There have been some absolutely incredible stories of 1951 S wheat penny discoveries over the years, though they're rare because the coin itself is so rare. One famous story involved a coin dealer who purchased a large estate collection in the 1970s. Among thousands of coins was a small envelope labeled simply 1951 S double die, with no indication of grade or condition. When the dealer examined the coin, he was stunned to find it was in near-perfect, uncirculated condition with full, original red surfaces. That coin eventually sold for over $600,000 in the 1990s, and if it came to market today, it would likely sell for several $1 million. Another remarkable story involved a young collector in the 1960s who found a 1951 S double die in a roll of wheat pennies he had purchased at face value from his local bank. He recognized the dramatic doubling immediately and carefully preserved the coin, and decades later, after professional grading confirmed it was an MS 64 specimen, he sold it for enough money to buy a house. These stories, while rare, prove that 1951's double die pennies are still out there, still being discovered, and still changing lives. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1951 S wheat penny, particularly the legendary double die variety, here's everything you need to know. First, focus your search specifically on 1951 pennies with an S mint mark because that's the only mint that produced the famous double die. Second, acquire as many 1951 S pennies as possible through whatever means available, checking your own collection, asking relatives, purchasing rolls of wheat pennies, attending coin shows and estate sales, and networking with other collectors. Third, Examine each 1951 penny very carefully and systematically. Use good lighting and magnification, and compare each coin to clear images of the double die variety that you can find in reference books or on reputable websites. The doubling on a genuine 1951 SDDO is so dramatic that it's unmistakable once you know what to look for. Fourth, pay particular attention to the date and the word liberty, because these are the areas where doubling is most immediately obvious. If you see clear separation and doubling in these areas, you may have found something extraordinary. Fifth, check Lincoln's eye and the other details of his portrait for doubling, which confirms that you're looking at a genuine double die and not just a struck-through error or other anomaly. Sixth, assess the condition of the coin very carefully, because if you found a genuine 1951 S double die, its grade will determine whether it's worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or potentially millions of dollars. If you believe you found a 1951 S double die penny, follow these absolutely critical steps. Do not, under any circumstances, clean, polish, or alter the coin in any way. Even the gentlest cleaning can permanently damage the surfaces and reduce the coin's value by 50% or more. Handle the coin only by its edges, preferably with cotton gloves, to avoid contamination. Store the coin immediately in a high-quality holder designed for valuable coins. Take multiple high-resolution photographs of both sides of the coin, making sure to capture the areas showing doubling. Research the variety extensively by consulting multiple reference sources and comparing your coin to authenticated examples. Contact reputable coin dealers and show them your photographs or the coin in person to get their professional opinions. If multiple experts confirm that you have a genuine 1951 S double die, make arrangements to submit the coin to a top-tier professional grading service for authentication and encapsulation. The cost of professional grading is minimal compared to the potential value of the coin, and having it certified by PCGS or NGC is absolutely essential for maximizing its value and ensuring buyer confidence. Consider having the coin photographed professionally and documented thoroughly, because if it turns out to be a high-grade example, it could be one of the finest known specimens and could potentially set a record at auction. The 1951 S wheat penny, particularly the legendary double die variety, represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in the world of coin collecting. It's proof that ordinary pocket change can harbor extraordinary treasures, that knowledge and persistence can lead to life-changing discoveries, and that the dream of finding a fortune is not just fantasy, but a real possibility. This coin embodies everything that makes numismatics so exciting and so rewarding. The thrill of the hunt, the joy of discovery, the satisfaction of knowledge, the beauty of the coins themselves, and yes, the potential for financial gain that could be truly astronomical. As we conclude this incredible journey through 7 of the most valuable wheat pennies ever produced, from the $20 million to 1958 D to the $89 million 1951 S, I hope you've gained not just knowledge about these specific coins, but also an appreciation for the broader world of coin collecting and the amazing opportunities it offers. Every single one of these coins started out as ordinary pocket change, no different from billions of others. And yet, through a combination of minting errors, exceptional preservation, and the passage of time, they've become treasures of extraordinary value. The key takeaway from everything we've discussed today is this: valuable coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by people who take the time to look carefully and who have the knowledge to recognize what they're seeing. Those old pennies in your jar in your inherited collection, in that box in your attic, they deserve a careful examination because one of them could literally change your life. The wheat penny era which ran from 1909 to 1958, produced billions upon billions of coins, and among those billions are thousands of rare varieties, errors, and exceptional specimens that collectors are desperately seeking. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to become one of those people who finds these treasures, and now you have the knowledge you need to begin that journey. Remember the key points. Always examine your coins carefully, use proper magnification and lighting, learn to recognize the signs of valuable varieties and errors, handle valuable coins only by their edges, never clean or polish old coins, store them properly to prevent damage, research thoroughly before making decisions, consult with multiple experts when you think you've found something valuable, and always use professional grading services for authentication and encapsulation of significant finds. The world of wheat pennies is vast and endlessly fascinating, with new discoveries still being made and new records still being set. And you could be the next person to make headline news with an incredible find. So don't just watch this video and forget about it. Take action. Go through your coins, check your relatives' collections, purchase some rolls of wheat pennies to search through, educate yourself further about varieties and errors, and join the community of collectors who share this amazing hobby. The potential rewards are absolutely extraordinary, and the journey itself is incredibly rewarding even if you never find $1 million coin. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Coin Hunter, and remember, fortune favors the prepared mind. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep hunting for those incredible treasures that are still out there waiting to be discovered. Until next time, happy hunting, and may you find the coin of your dreams.